First off, don't worry, this isn't an origin film. Also, if you've seen any of the trailers or clips for the movie, then you've got an idea about the plot. The film takes place roughly 2 months after Civil War, and Peter, with about 6 months of superheroing experience, needs to balance his superhero and private life, as well as deciding if he wants to emulate the hero he admires or become his own thing. Meanwhile, a new villain emerges who has a very understandable and relatable reason for doing what he's doing. I really like this film. This has to be one of the only films this year that I've seen where there's not a single weak acting performance anywhere. Tom Holland played a great Peter Parker Spider-Man. In previous films, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they would get certain aspects correct, but they were wanting in others. Looking at it now, this version of Peter seems to be the most complete film version of him overall. Peter's relationships with the other characters in the film were really believable. Good acting, action, writing, and mostly good direction. I really can't think of much else to analyze about the film, so I'm just going to list my positives and negatives in the film. Negatives first, FYI, they're basically just nitpicks. First, missing footage. Some of the scenes from the trailers once again weren't in the film. This is starting to get really annoying. I'm not sure why those scenes were taken out, since it wouldn't make the film that much longer and it wouldn't screw up with the flow of the film. 2. Most of the CGI is good, but occasionally it comes off as too fake. A couple of times it looked like Spidey didn't have any weight to him. Also, sometimes during the fights, the movement was just too quick and difficult to follow. Spidey is supposed to be fast, but this is overcompensating too much. 3. The villain was related to someone Peter knew. I don't think this was really needed, and with this trope happening so often, it's now a cliche. Michael Keaton is a good enough actor that I understood and believed his motivation at the start of the film. I was sold on the Vulture. I think Peter would have understood him and his motivations anyway without the Vulture being related to someone that Peter knew. 4. The amount of curse words. It wasn't distracting, but weren't really needed. I get the feeling that they were put there so this wouldn't be a PG rated film. I guess Hollywood feels PG films are only suitable for children or children films, and The Kiss of Death for action films. 5. We really don't get to see Pete's spider sense in the film. Can it really be that tough to animate? As a side note, Zendaya's character of Michelle, while that's her name in the film, the rumor that was going around on the internet a few months ago about who she was is correct. Oy. And now for some positives. 1. The villain usually dies in action films, and especially in superhero action films. Of course, I assume the reason he didn't die here is because Sony wants to still accept the Sinister Six film. Also, I assume that's what the point of the mid-credits scene was. 2. At the beginning of the film, while the Marvel Studios logo was going up, they were playing I believe a techno version of the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon theme. So that was pretty fun. I'm going to have to look online to see if there's a full version of that. 3. Consistently throughout the film, they played up Peter's intelligence. It didn't matter if he was working with someone else, by himself, or with the help of a high-tech suit. We get to see him attack a problem logically, scientifically, and creatively. I know people really like the original trilogy, I do too, but they never really played up Peter's intelligence there. It just never seemed to interest them for some reason, even though it's one of his most important qualities. I mean, I felt the same way about the Nolan Batman films. They never played up him being a detective. 4. Along with the good acting, there was also good writing. You could make an argument that the non-action scenes were better than the action ones. They had more tension and they had more weight to them. 5. While in science class, while answering questions, he was creating more web fluid on the slide. I found that funny and something that he would do. 6. The end credit scene seems to be the filmmakers trolling the moviegoers that only sit through the end of the film just for a end credit scene. I rolled my eyes, but that was pretty clever how they did that. 7. The high-tech suit Pete's given. I know that people are going to say that this resembles how during the comics version of Civil War, Tony gave Pete the Iron Spider suit. What I thought was, it's like how his suit is now in the comics. It's as high-tech there as here, but that's because he's running his own tech company. Think of him as a more well-adjusted Tony Stark. It happened after Doc Ock took over his brain. Comic books. Trust me, it's actually a great story. I also like how Peter had to do something in order to unlock the suit's full potential, and this was really just a test set by Tony to see how resourceful Peter was. Pretty sneaky, Tony. Pete gives the suit's AI the name of Karen. I'm sure this is a reference to something, but for the life of me, I don't know what. 8. The fact that this isn't an Iron Man movie co-starring Spider-Man. Now, Tony doesn't have a glorified cameo, but he's in it just enough. I mean, Happy is in the film and has more of a presence in here than Tony does. 9. P.S. Spidey is just quippy enough. Initially, I didn't think he had enough quips, but with the amount of comedy in the film, he's just quippy enough. 10. Stan Lee's cameo was funny, but as was the lady he was talking to his real-life wife. 11. The introduction of Donald Glover's character alludes to another character possibly existing. Now, his character name may just be an Easter egg for fans and nothing else, or it could possibly be a set for said character to pop up in the future. I mean, he is getting his own CGI animated film next Christmas. Spoiler. 12. Also, while his name isn't given in the film, the principal reminds me of Mr. Lee, aka Mr. Negative from the comics. So maybe he's gonna be a possible villain in the future. 13. Peter's relationship with Aunt May was good too. Also, one of the funniest scenes is at the end of the film where she catches him in a very compromising situation. Okay, on a side note, Ned in the film is basically Genki from the Miles Morales Spider-Man series. They look and act the same and they have the same interests. I don't understand why they didn't just call him Genki. In the comics, Ned Leeds is an adult reporter at the Daily Bugle. Also, it's kind of funny because in the comics, about a couple of months ago, Genki he was going undercover and he used the name Ned. So I'm thinking the writer of the comics, he probably got a early script of the film. 14. I really like the interactive end credits. It had a real fun feel to it. The last 3 films I've seen have done this. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Wonder Woman, and now Spider-Man. More films should do this. It'll keep the film goers more invested so they'll watch all the way through the credits and the end of the film. Another side note, while Marvel Studios helped produce this is still a Sony film, so it's probably unrealistic to expect this, but in Captain America the Winter Soldier and in Wonder Woman, during the end credits, they showed the names of every prominent creator throughout that character's history. It's a great way to show respect of the people that worked on the source material without which the film wouldn't have been made. And it would have been nice if that happened here, but Sony, what do you expect? Of course, I give this a recommend. Yes, I know this is the 3rd set of Spider-Man films in 15 years. I know the internet says they're sick of Spider-Man, but I say see this anyway. The previous set of films worked for the time that they were created. The same can be said of this as well. Initially, I was hesitant when I heard about this new film because really another teenage Spider-Man. You do realize that most of his history, he's been out of high school. However, after seeing his role in Civil War and how Tom Holland played him, I was more at ease. This is one of the most well-rounded iterations of the character I've ever seen. I think when people of all ages see this film, they'll be able to relate to all the characters and the situations to various degrees. If you're even a little bit interested in this film, then please go out and see it. It's really good. Also, don't worry, it doesn't sequel bait like the other films do. If you like this review, then please comment below, share the video, and subscribe. And until my next video, have a good day.